This is Thomas Donald Jacobs for Paperboys on Thursdays. And today's topic is tips for bottom surgery. Now, I have not yet had bottom surgery, it's been scheduled twice. Um, the first time I had to cancel it, which I'll talk about in a bit. And now it's been rescheduled for June of this year. I don't know if it's going to happen, but, keeping my fingers crossed for numerous reasons that this pandemic starts to, slow down a bit and things get way less crazy. So, my tips are two things: making your choice and choosing a surgeon. Okay, so first, making the choice. This is my choice, it's not anyone else's choice. So, I'm not throwing shade on anyone who decides to choose something else, which is something that people absolutely should not do. Um, I initially considered the phalloplasty, and I had a consult for that 3 years ago with a surgeon here in Belgium who is, considered pretty much an expert, and was informed that for health reasons, I am not a candidate for any kind of phalloplasty. It just wouldn't be a good decision to make. And that was hard to hear. It was a bit of a punch in the gut. And so then I started looking into metoidioplasty, which I'd never, seriously considered at first. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that from my perspective, a modest surgical result, you know, the size thing, would have no real impact on my life. That would be fine. Um, for one thing, I'm not driven to have a bulge. If I want that, I have a really excellent packer from the good people over at GenderCat. Recommend their products to anyone and everyone. They're good quality, easy to use, and they have really, really excellent customer service there. And in comparison to a lot of the other companies out there, extremely affordable. So there's that. And in terms of how I have sex, typically I bottom. I rarely feel the urge to be on the giving end of things, at least down below. And when I do, I have various toys for that. So, and it does not bother me personally at all to use them. So, that wasn't an issue either. So, I had my first consult um, for metoidioplasty, and it was disconcerting. The surgeon um, made a surprisingly ignorant remark when I said I only wanted metoidioplasty. I did not want to go on to have a phalloplasty afterwards, um, because he said I would never be able to have sex with that. It's just not true. I was going to have all the sex with that I have now. So, yeah, that kind of was a bit of a red flag. And but I let it go, and then I noticed, however, during our conversation, he kept referring to the metoidioplasty as stage 1 phalloplasty. And that became important later on because about half a year out from the surgery, I decided that I did not want urethral lengthening. And that is purely because of two things. First, I really want to avoid complications. And the UL seems to be where most of the complications happen. It's not guaranteed, but it does happen. And I do not have the time where my career is at right now for any of that. Just can't do it. I already had to take 2 weeks off for top surgery, and then my hysterectomy. Physically, I was fine in 2 weeks, but I was still out for 2 more because menopause hit me hard. I was going crazy. So I just can't have another giant gap in my research schedule. Can't have it. So I decided that I would rather just have the simple release and then consider a scrotoplasty at some point in the future. My second reason for doing that is my front hole is actually really useful to me. I have no dysphoria now about using it, and it's very convenient. It cleans itself, you know what I mean? And also, my current partner, he's partially paralyzed, and parking up front is just easier for him. So I had good reasons for wanting this. Not that I have to justify it, but these were my reasons. And I finally managed to get a second consult with the surgeon just a month before the surgery was scheduled, and I found out he does not know how to do a clitoral release. The reason being because for him, a metoidioplasty is just a stage 1 phalloplasty. He doesn't do clitoral release because for him, you're going to be back in 2 years to have the graft put on top. So the release is not a necessity. And so that was it for me. And I canceled the surgery, even though he was at that time the only surgeon at the clinic. So I had to fight to get an appointment with a surgeon who was still working at the hospital and knew how to do the metoidioplasty as a surgery in of itself. Which I did, and I'm glad that I did. So those are my two top tips. Carefully consider what you need, and also what you can afford in terms of time or money. It sucks that may have to have an impact on your decision, but it is what it is. Especially, I think if you're older and you're in the process of building a career, those two things can actually play an important role in your surgical choices, um, especially when you're thinking about recovery times. And secondly, go with the surgeon who considers metoidioplasty to be a legitimate surgery and not just stage one of the phalloplasty. Um, I think that it's better to work with surgeons who are as invested in the outcome as you are. I hope someone out there found that useful um, and informative. And I will see you next week. Wash your hands. Bye.